Welcome, everybody. I have a quick question for you. Are you stressed? Probably, right? Are you anxious about some things or maybe pessimistic about the future? With good reason. The reality is, even if you're only partially paying attention to the things going on out there, you have good reason to be stressed. And that's not your personal stress of money and your job and your health and your kids and all the things that you have to deal with in a daily grind. Today's guest, Brett Cotter, is here to help you with all of that. He's going to show us techniques to help you stop your stress in its tracks. He's going to help you ease that anxiety. And ultimately, he's going to transform your negative thinking into something that's far more useful to you, far more empowering to you. So 20 years ago, Brett started a company called Stress Is Gone. And ever since, he's been out there changing the lives of people every day. And his clients are amazing. You know, he's got Fortune 500 companies. He works with the U.S. military. He works with school systems and hospital systems. And his methods are even used at disaster sites where you would imagine that stress and anxiety is at its peak. And fortunately for us, today, he's not out there. Today, he's right here. He's here with us to share his method. It's a method that's born from his own personal trauma that he's going to share with us. But truly, this is a case of one man's trauma being a treasure for us all. So, very excited to welcome Mr. Brick. I wanted that dramatic pause.
Dramatic pause.
Very excited to have this man in studio with us because of what he can do for all of us. Brett, welcome to the show, buddy.
Welcome, Brett.
Thank you so much, Mark and Stacy, for having me. I'm so excited to be here with everybody. And thank you for that wonderful intro.
You're welcome.
It was awesome.
It's well-deserved, for sure. Look, you're very unique in that way, right? Because some of us have that simple stress of the daily grind, and then some people have haunting, traumatic memories and the pain that comes with that. Right. And you have found a way to help everybody in between.
Yeah. So what I found since I got into this work in 1999 is that underneath those routine stress patterns that we have in our career, with our relationships, with our spouses, with our parents, with our kids, with our friends, there's one or two traumas from our formative years that set up a core belief about who we are and how safe we are in the world. And that continues to replay in different areas of our life. So the trauma that we experience in our family of origin during our formative years recreates as adults in our relationships, in our own families, and in our careers. So what I found was if you actually get to the core trauma and you release all of the pain, panic, fear, shame, blame, everything in there, and you're really present with it, you actually break apart that pattern from the original memory, and then all the other problems that came after it start to fall like dominoes, and it clears a pathway for you to move forward more authentically.
Wow, that's great. Well, I, for one, am excited you're here. We talked before the show. You know, it's definitely, there's stress kind of up and downs in everybody's life. Mm-hmm. Do you think you could share like the defining moment from your personal journey that started you on this track?
Wow, so many, but my story really starts with stress when I was 6, right? So I was born in 1973. My father and mother grew up around the block from each other.
Where?
In Flushing, Queens, New York.
Okay.
Yeah. And my father, when he was 18, he signed up for the Marines and went to Vietnam. My dad experienced a lot of trauma early in his childhood and also in his adolescence and young adulthood. So his mom passed away from suicide when he was 6, and then he went to Vietnam. And then with 2 weeks left to go in Vietnam, his brother passed away in a tragic car accident. And his brother was like his hero. When he did get back, he became a firefighter. And because of his PTSD and his trauma, he got sucked into the world of partying in New York City with his firehouse, buddies and stuff, like so many guys in the 70s and 80s did. Mm-hmm. Good men, good-hearted people just got sucked into that hurricane. My mother divorced him when I was 6, and it was a super messy, emotional divorce. A lot of people have messy divorces with finances and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. That really wasn't the case. We didn't have too much to fight over, but it was more emotionally.
Yeah.
And when my mother divorced him, that's where my pain set in, right? And my father wasn't able to show up for his visitation. So really what happened was I was on the front stoop waiting for him to show up, because he would call and say, I'm on my way, but then he would never
wouldn't
show
show
up. So I'd be on the
Brett.
stoop the whole weekend. And this was probably from 6 to like 9-ish in there, where he missed a few birthdays and things like that.
Wow.
So I remember talking to him when I was older, maybe 10 years after getting into the whole like emotional, enlightenment thing and just emotional education, emotional awareness thing. I said, Dad, why would you call and not show up? As an adult, I don't understand that, and as a dad. And he's like, Brett, I drove down the block 1,000 times. He goes, I couldn't turn the corner.
Why?
And the pain was too much for him to face his own failure.
Got it.
And his own pain. And there was something that he said when I was 8. We were on a camping trip, and I was begging him to come home. And he was like, I would, but your mom won't let me. And that's where a whole nother level of pain in my story came in, because I was already having that core belief of love is going to leave me because now he's gone, right? Mm-hmm. But then my mother, who was my rock and this amazing, wise being, I hated her because I blamed the divorce on her.
Sure.
When he said that I would come home,
Yeah.
but your mom won't let me. My mother told me when I would get back from my visitation with him, it would be like 3 or 4 days sometimes where I was just super angry. I'm talking like, a second grader, third grader, super angry, kicking stuff and just like really pissed off to be home.
Right.
So that affected me in an amazing way in all of my relationships with women. Right.
Yeah.
Until I was 27. And that really affected me with how I related to women in a huge way.
And you said, in doing our research on you, I found where you said that there was a sequence of events that led you to break free from that. And you mentioned at the age of 27. What was that sequence?
She called me out of the blue and she's like, Brett, I know it's going to sound crazy, but I was at this party in Long Island. I met this psychic and she was dead on with me, you, and John. And I want you to talk to her. So I got her number, tried calling her for 6 months. She wouldn't pick up the phone, right? So then, like a week before I got in touch with that psychic, an ex-girlfriend calls me in the middle of the night at 3 a.m. and says, Brett, I know we haven't spoken in a long time, but I just have a message for you. You need to learn how to meditate. So we spoke for like a few more minutes, and then I got off the phone, and I was like, I couldn't really sleep, so opened up this book I was reading, and right on the next chapter it said, before you read this chapter, you need to learn how to meditate. And now I'm like, I put the book down, I'm like, I'm bugging out. And then I'm like, and I can't go to sleep. So I turn on the TV, and this is the first time I ever saw this guy ever, Joel Osteen. He's like, you got to learn how to meditate with his hand out. And now I'm like totally tripping out. Right?
Yeah.
I'm like, but I get it. I have a thick head. The universe is like, ding dong, knocks 3 times. So I scheduled a retreat that weekend to learn how to do transcendental meditation. And that completely changed my life in amazing ways. And when I got home from that retreat on that Sunday, I was like, let me call Tara. That was the psychic in Sedona,
psychic.
Arizona. And she just picks up the phone and goes, thanks for hanging in there, kiddo. Didn't say, who is it? Didn't say hello. And the first thing she told me when we started our session was 3 things I never told anybody, just to create credibility with me, right? And from there on, I was like, she's tapped into some intelligence and I want it. I want to understand what that is. And she knew my problem because I confided in her in the session. She knew my heart was burning to let go of jealousy because jealousy was ruining all my relationships from age 15 to 27. And I was in another loving relationship that I loved the woman, but my jealousy was coming out at like the 18-month mark and just tearing the relationship to shreds. So she referred me to a healer in Sedona, Arizona. And that's where the next step of my, journey and really where everything started to open up. So I sat down with this man for 90 minutes. In the first 5 minutes, he surfaced from within my body, my cellular memory of when I was 5, watching my parents argue and fight. And it was the same exact way I argued it and fought with all of my girlfriends from age 15 to 27. So my mother's arms were wild. She was yelling. My father was standing there clenching his fists and grinding his teeth and yelling. And it was the exact same thing. And then I'm in this memory now. Like, I look down, just as I see the couch here and the carpet there, I was a 5-year-old and I looked down. It was the same carpet that I was on and I felt it. And I saw how innocent I was, just absorbing the original blueprint of the pattern. When that memory came up, I felt all the jealousy inside my body start to unlock and release. And I literally was feeling it. And then when that released, then all the anger and rage that was below it came up. And then when that released, all the sadness that the anger was protecting came up. And underneath it all was the fear of abandonment. And that's what I absorbed in that original memory. And when that unlocked and released, then I just started feeling waves of unconditional love coursing through every cell in my body.
So your revival is very spiritual. It's probably a good way to put it. And your work with people is obviously going to be grounded in that, like accessing your higher self or meditation, transcendental meditation. You must hit walls with people when they aren't buying it, I guess is probably a good way to put it. How do you break through those walls?
I work with people that, have tried every different thing to like process their trauma. And a lot of times it re-traumatizes people going through that. And the only thing I could say is that the light never disappoints. It never disappoints. Meaning, if we have 50 pounds of emotional pain on the table, 51 pounds of light comes through to clean out all the old emotional residue from your mind, body, psyche, and spirit. So like it gets into it. You feel it digging and working. And often people say, I feel a lot of warmth coming over me. I feel this tingly sensation. Then some people will say, I feel waves. It comes in a few different forms, but it's all the feelings inside your body that make it real.
What about the non-heavy, deep memories? What about how am I going to make rent? Right? The stress. How am I going to do that? Or, oh God, I hope my daughter's going to be okay. She's getting bullied at school. Mm-hmm. Is it the same process, only scaled down? Or is it like a version of your method light?
Awesome question. So regarding our kids, or worries about our kids, our children are just physical reflections of our own inner children, and the issues and the stress they bring up in us are showing us where we are to heal.
Interesting.
Darn
Super
it.
important with our kids to understand that. And I'm still, look, my son's 18.
Yeah.
I'm working on this every freaking day. Right?
Yeah.
So regarding the present day stresses, right? Regarding the present day stresses, what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So a lot of people come to me when they recently lost a loved one, when they feel overwhelmed. What we do is we quickly go into the biggest loss they encountered in their formative years. And 9 times out of 10, that individual that came to me lost a loved one that was close to them when they were in their formative years or early teens, and they never processed it. So what we do is we unlock and release all the core blocks around the heart, all the old pain and trauma around that original loss, where the original energy of loss sunk into their body and their psyche. And we unlock and release it so that they could open up their heart again in the session to that lost loved one. And they actually feel a connection with that original loved one that they lost, right? You actually feel it in your heart, like you could feel them. Often they'll see them. Often they start talking to them in the session, and they feel them with them later on that day as well. There's some testimonials on the website about that. When we do that work, the loss in the present day becomes 10 times less and more manageable, because we have unlocked and released and healed the original fear of loss, the blueprint of it. Mm-hmm. So yes, we're going to still miss that person, right? But we're also going to be able to connect with that person, call them into our dreams. And the only reason why they don't come to us in our dreams is because when they get close, it triggers a huge amount of pain. So when we process the pain and let it go, we're more open to receiving them from the other side, right? And seeing their messages and feeling connected to them. And that's really, I feel, the gift of this work is transcending some of the barriers between this world and the next.
You talked about your dad, and he had PTSD, and then you had said, I read that your dad died of the long-term effects of PTSD. What are they, and what happened?
My dad at this time was living on his own. He dealt with his stress in 3 ways. Budweiser, mowing his lawn. He was living on a 5-acre property, and he'd mow his lawn 2 to 3 times a week, right? So I would probably mow it once a month if I had that much land, right? So, and then also telling jokes. So his symptoms were probably like his heart rate, his propensity for alcohol, and his diversion of not looking at the hard stuff. He thought his demons were much too big for him and much bigger than him. So I created this app called PTSD Free, and I wanted my dad to test it for me. So we were using this testing app called Test Flight, and I sent it to him. And then he was ducking me, right? He wouldn't return my calls for like a month. So I'm like, call him, leaving a message. So he finally calls me. It was a Tuesday night, and I'm walking into a meeting. And I said, well, he said, Brett, I'm so sorry. I know I've been meaning to get back to you. He's like, I hate to tell you this. I'm just not an app guy. I can't use it. I'm like, what's the matter? What's wrong? And he goes, my hands are just too big. My father had huge hands. He was a Marine veteran, New York City firefighter, worked construction, built dental offices, houses, bars. So, and he was a mechanic. And so his hands were huge. So I'm like, Dad, that's okay. I was like, look, I just want to help you get to the core of the PTSD stuff. I go, what is the sense of me working with veterans if the ones that matter most to me slip through my fingers? And he's said, do you really want to pop the lid off of this top? Because again, he thought his demons were bigger than him. And I said, yes, Dad, I do. And he said, okay, let's do a session on Friday. And this is Tuesday night. So I was elated, that we got there. And the next day around 12 noon, he was shopping with his buddy. They had this wacky Wednesdays barbecue. Him, a firehouse buddy, and a retired New York City police officer. They were all Vietnam veterans. And he had a bleeding stroke in the center of his brain. And 11 days later, we buried him. And I never got to do that session with him. So after crying like a baby for 6 months and being a guinea pig on a technique that came through to help us process the loss of loved ones, I started writing the book after 6 months because I wanted people to have a tool, people like him. Because anyone could read a book and write in it. And then that's when I started writing the 3 keys to managing PTSD. That was the motivation behind it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I saw where you got a copy of that book into every homeless vet in Jersey.
Yeah, so
that's an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah.
Thank you. We did a GoFundMe in 2019, right before the pandemic. And we raised enough money to print, and I hand-delivered a copy of the book to each homeless veteran that was sheltered in New Jersey.
Yeah.
And then we also partnered with a company called Backpacks for Life, Brett D'Alessandro and his wife Alexa, and they get these rucksacks of survival tools to homeless veterans around the world. And so we, made a large donation at that point to try and reach all the homeless veterans that were not sheltered as well in New Jersey. Wow. At that time.
That's amazing. So what are the 3 keys for those who need to hear it?
Yeah, so the first key is learn how to stop a stress reaction. The second key is resolve the trauma. And the third key is meditate every day. And the first key to stop a stress reaction is anytime you're stressed, just touch the tension wherever you feel it. I usually feel it in my heart. Start breathing deep and slow. And once per breath, you silently say the words, I'm okay. And if you're with somebody, you're having an argument, just take a quick breath break, take a 2-minute walk, gather yourself, and then come back clear, and then talk from an authentic place, the authentic you.
I think for most people, myself included, like getting into that mode or meditating or, like we're running all the time. What's your suggestion for someone who's really busy? They want to meditate. Do you wake up in the morning and meditate? Do you find a time at 2 p.m.? Do you, what are good hints in order to start? Because I know I need to do it every day. And it's just, I feel like it doesn't fit in my world.
Here's the thing. It's almost like, what was that Apple commercial back in the day, or the Macintosh one, when they threw the brick through the screen and
Yes.
shattered?
Macintosh, yeah.
Think of your daily calendar and throwing a brick through it, right? Because our daily calendar is all about survival, typically, right? I have to do this, I have to do this,
Sure.
I have to do this, I have to do this. And where are you in it? Okay, you're just sucked into the matrix, right? And everything is about draining your energy to survive. So what we teach in our membership is 10 minutes of meditation and 10 minutes of joy. Okay, you fit it in anywhere you want.
Explain the joy part.
Sure. So the joy is whatever brings you joy. For me, it's singing and dancing. So, you make a playlist of your 20 favorite songs and you play 3 of those songs. And it could be during your commute. You don't even have to dance, but as long as you're singing along with it, smiling and enjoying it.
Got it.
Okay.
Something
because
that
when you
lights you up.
reflect,
Yeah.
when you reflect on that later in the day, it kind of like blows some wind in your sails, right?
Got it.
It throws a monkey wrench into the whole stress cycle, right? And the meditation, this is really important. So meditation should be a part of your life, and you could do it on the go. So we just did it in the middle of a show. I do this when I'm driving. I did this right before we started. It's just something you want to integrate into your everyday life. And anytime you notice one of your stress signals, so your stress signals are an elevated heart rate, taking short, shallow breaths, right? Feeling tension in your body, feeling emotional, being upset, or hearing repetitive negative thoughts. Those are 5 stress signals. Anytime you feel one of those or realize one of those, just touch the tension, start breathing into it. Take 30 seconds to embrace the emotion and the stress with your breath from the inside out. And do the mantra, I'm okay, once per breath, right? Do it for 30 seconds, a minute, just to disengage the fight or flight reaction.
I love the 10 minutes of joy. I don't think anybody thinks about that. People will think I need to spend some time with my thoughts. I need to sit quietly. I need to reflect on the day, or I need to prepare for the day by sitting quietly. I don't know how many people are thinking about, I need to schedule some joy today. I may have things I want to do, but I never get to them.
But one of my favorite parts is the joy part, because we have movement and dance segments where Marines are skipping. Okay, everybody's spinning. We're doing swing dancing sometimes, right? So we're learning how to interrelate with each other with an open heart. And then we switch partners every 3 spins. So you're getting used to things starting, maintaining, and ending, right? Because these are like the cycles in our lives, right? And coming and going. And it's just so special the way joy anchors in and what it does for our energy. And joy anchors in your spirit, and it introduces it into your body. So when we get sucked into the matrix of all the things that we have to do every day, our spirit leaves. It's like, I don't want to be there. Screw that, right? No fun. When we bring in joy, our spirit's like, whoa, it's happening down there. More of your energy comes back, your chi, your life force.
It's beautiful.
It just comes back. And there was a number of studies that people that meditate for over 5 years consistently, their biological age of their cells under a microscope read up to 12 years younger. So if you're looking for the fountain of youth, you're sitting on it. Sit down, get quiet, and meditate.
I really think, like, practically for our audience, like, if they're a caregiver of someone who has PTSD or someone who's completely stressed out, what advice would you give to them? Like, if you were to go back now with your dad, knowing what you know, what would you do differently?
I would just spend more time and connect with him. I always wanted to videotape an interview with him, and I didn't get a chance to do that with him. So I bought this deck of cards, which is 150 cards off of this website last week, and it's like interview cards, and it's like how to interview your elders, and it's just you pick a card and ask, and I'm gonna do that with my mom.
Nice.
Love that.
So at least we'll have that, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And but yeah, so if someone you know or love is struggling with PTSD, check in on them. Okay, listen. A lot of times we're afraid of it, and we kind of like are afraid to go there, but really just say, hey, how's it going? I was thinking about you. And then just shut up. Have a few other open-ended questions. What do you got going on today? No judgment. Don't call them and like, vent all your stuff. That's what we tend to do. Just ask them how they're doing today, was thinking about you, and what they got going on. And if there's some place to physically connect, like meet up for lunch, to do that, to give them something to look forward to, that's a great thing to do. But just being there in their life is really important. And then knowing there's a few red flag statements that you might hear like veterans say. I feel like I'm losing my mind. If you hear someone say that, I want you to know that that is a major red flag for suicidal ideation. When a veteran says that, I feel like I'm losing my mind. Nothing's working. Things like that. Things like if you or I were saying it, you might not think, oh, Brett's having suicidal ideation. But if you hear a veteran say that, that's like a major siren should be going off in your head to then say, tell me more. Tell me everything. I want to hear everything without any judgment. Keep on asking, like get them to feel safe enough to open up and empty the tank. That's part of the suicide prevention protocol that I'm now training vet-to-vet crisis counselors and peer support specialists on. It's how to sit with them with their darkest moments and just ask simple, open-ended questions so they feel safe enough to open up and go there without judgment, and you just softly encourage them. And then it's connecting them with all the services they need, right, to handle the present-day stresses that are stressing them out. It could be like relationship issues, legal issues, financial issues, whatever it is, healthcare issues. And then also the help to work out those deeper inner traumas that were never sorted out yet.
Are there physical red flags to know that someone has PTSD? Like,
I think behavior patterns are important to understand, substance abuse and use, withdrawing from family events. I can't make it, red flag. There's a lot of things. If they just got their medication changed, you better be on top of them. That's something that not a lot of people talk about, but that is a major marker towards veterans dying by suicide. When there is a recent medication change, if there's family court, disagreements with their child's spouse, not seeing their children, major red flags. And then, so those I feel are really, really important to understand. And then there's a final wave of negative thoughts that occur right before suicide, which is everyone's better off without me.
Got it.
If you hear, your son, your daughter, your uncle, your aunt, your mother, your father, your brother, your sister say that, you call 911 and you get in your car and you go over there.
really?
Oh, yeah. Everyone's better off without me. That's one of the final waves. My life was a waste. That's another one. All right. You hear that, you call 911 and you get over and you are next to them. Very important we understand this as civilians because they've gone through things that we'll never understand. That's part of the problem. When they go and talk to a therapist, it brings up so much stuff. And a lot of times those sessions don't have the answers for everything it just brought up. And then they're looking at someone that hasn't gone through what they've been through and can't relate to it. So now all this stuff came up and, these folks, and there's nowhere to bring it. So therapy is really not, an answer, or they might have had a bad experience. So it's like now that's just like, shit, I'm just going to drink it away, or deal with it how I deal with it. And then it festers and gets worse and worse and worse and worse and takes over.
Right.
Yeah.
Until it's too late.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that we get the word out about you, about your book, if you want to tell us how we can help. You offer a range of services from one-on-one coaching to retreats. What else is there that you want to tell the audience?
So Stress Is Gone is this beautiful universe that my wife and I have created. And it's a membership. We teach in it 6 days a week, right? 20-minute sessions, really, short and sweet to the point. They bring in a lot of mind clearing, emotional balancing, really grounding your energy in your body, getting you clear and excited to face the challenges in your life. And more importantly, it gives you the tools like stressed upper breath work, the anxiety freedom technique, the traumatic memory release, all these things, the freedom formula. It gives you the tools to use when the rubber meets the road, when you're out there and you're triggered, when you're out there and you're arguing with your wife or your husband, or you're about to, you want to strangle one of your kids, right? Like when you're just like at wit's end.
Yes.
When you're there and it's like, oh, right, I have something I could do. I have a tool to use. So it's using that, and then it's becoming really more comfortable and efficient at expressing your emotions, your core emotions. Because once you learn how to vent it, something special happens. StressIsGone.com is the website. The easiest way to dive in is our membership. We also have a free mini course. We have a masterclass. Our coaching is amazing. You could buy one session or a 4-pack, and they're done over the phone in the privacy and comfort of your own home. You're laying down with earbuds in. I'm talking with you. We are going through all the pain of your childhood, unlocking it and releasing it. You are under blankets and you feel safe. And when you're under blankets, feeling safe in your own bed, your body lets down all of its protection mechanisms and everything comes up to release, because every cell has been pre-programmed to return to homeostasis. The body is ready to let go. And this is just a pathway to do that.
That's good stuff.
Yeah.
Brett, it's been great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can't thank you enough for coming in.
Thank you so much for having me.
Really.
So many big takeaways for the audience.
Personally, I've taken a lot out of this, so I appreciate you.
10 minutes of joy. I'm going to schedule it for today and tomorrow.
Right now after this.
We'll start dancing. We're going to sing and dance. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And thank you to our guest, Brett Cotter.
Thank you, Brett.
Have a great day.